The Lamiska Pirates. Chapter 5. Epilogue. Vilsavas moved through the throngs of the main arcade of Velstock Station. He was not really looking for anything in particular, just enjoying a day off after the grueling debriefing of the last mission. A large part of him was marveling at the great change there was now he, as a Devane, was treated in a press like this. Less than 5 years ago, the sea of entities from over 1,000 different planets would have parted before him without him even noticing. If he even looked at a shop or a stall, the proprietor would drop all business with lesser beings and attend to him, even if his own eyes moved on. Now, while there was still respect, it was a different kind. He was expected to make his way and wait his turn, just like everyone else. For over 300 of his years, he had lived in a bubble separated from the rest of the people of the galaxy. Now, he almost felt mired in it, and he had to say, he liked the feeling. A flick of Visidrac black hair caught his attention. Turning his head slowly, he caught sight of a familiar figure moving off in a different direction. A jolt of excitement went through him as he recognized the back and gait of the figure. Moving casually, careful to keep his attention on anything but, he moved to follow. Carefully sending his senses out on the aether, he caught the wake of the Terran song. He dropped back so his quarry wasn't even in sight, following on in the ether only. Soon he followed the man out of the arcade, into some of the apparently lesser used corridors. One usually didn't think of a space station as having unused corridors, but when you're talking about a station as vast and as old as Velstock, it would be more surprising if it didn't have them. Ducking through a Venice-sized hatchway, he found himself in what was clearly an old park, one that had been left to go to seed and was heavily overgrown. Again, not something you expected to see in a station, unless that station was like Velstock. Moving in, he tried to spot his quarry before he moved forward. "You know," the heavily accented voice coming from behind him caused him to spin around, crouching. A flicker of movement above the hatchway drew his attention, and then Captain Montoya dropped down from where he had been hanging. "Trying to sneak up on a former Green Beret is not something that even El Diablo attempts to do. Not and expects to live, that is." Montoya slid closer. Valsalvas' eye flicked back into the room. He chuckled derisively. "An aether tracking, one trained by Rosarita. Let's just say that is given as an example of a fool's errand." "As good as you think you are." Valsalvas moved right up to the Terran, staring down into the pirate's green eyes. "I will get better." They stared hard at each other for long moments, neither backing down. Then both burst into laughter, embracing each other quickly. "Si, mi amigo. I am certain you will. But not today." Montoya slapped him on the back as both moved into the old park. The row looked around and snorted. "Are the rest of your crew here, or is it just you that likes to get back to your roots?" "Ah, cute. No, Vagris took over an abandoned caretaker's apartment over there." The Terran nodded to the far end of the kilometer-long room. "This gives him room to stretch his legs without scaring the natives." Montoya gave an easy chuckle. "I'm guessing you're here for your share of the funds." Valsalvas shrugged. "I suppose my employers would appreciate it." The Terran held up a transchit. "Here you go. All transactions well notated." "Not by you, I hope," the Rose said as he took it. Montoya shuddered. "Oh, no. I had that part explicitly in my contract. No money paperwork. It gives me indigestion." They both chuckled. Valsalvas snorted. "What gives me indigestion is trying to work out how you figured out I was going to make that move I did so well that you were able to do a ballistic intercept on me." Montoya let out a loud laugh and slapped the Devane on his back. "My Dryad! You did not recognize her?" Valsalvas' eyes narrowed. "No, only got a quick look at her. I was too intent on playing my part right. Having those civilians on my bridge was throwing me off. Who was she?" Montoya smiled as he leaned forward. "That, mi amigo, was Blair." Valsalvas stumbled at that. "Blair? The Dryad Blair of the Cabcost Gambit?" The Terran captain chuckled, flipping his hair back. "The very same." Valsalvas shook his head, wondering. "Very well. Losing to you does not sting so bad." He shook his head. "But that does bring up the question, what is she, and you for that matter, doing back here running this job? The packet I got on this run didn't mention you were full ranger, to say nothing of having a high Druid." Montoya's sigh was several levels cooler. "Pretty much the same as you, mi amigo. We, as well as a good part of the crew, are recovering. Our last mission almost went wrong, and things got greasy." Valsalvas dipped his head. "Sorry, my friend." The Terran captain's mood lightened immediately. "Nothing to apologize for, mi amigo. It is the past, and we grow or die. Me, I'm having too much fun living, so I choose to grow. Vilsavis chuckled. Excellent to hear. But speaking of fun and civilians, how goes the ransoming off of your captives? Vilsavis asked. Muy bien, muy bien. The only problem we are having is a few of them are resisting being ransomed. They're having too much fun living what seems to be their ultimate fantasy, which I guess isn't too surprising since it's a favorite fantasy back on Terra as well. Montoya shook his head. But we might need to add some wording in the contracts they signed to limit how long the game goes. That Yamasa of yours and her friend Trisola are talking about wanting to stay on with us. That was definitely no part of the package they signed on for this cruise. Question for you, my Terran friend. Did you find it odd that so many Devane and quite a few of the other races are clamoring for and willing to pay significantly for a vacation where they get attacked by and even captured and tortured by pirates, to the point of even some of them throwing themselves into combat that they know that will require them to spend some time in a regen unit? Not at all, the Terran shook his head. As I said, it's common on Terra. In the middle of a war where we could all die and be eaten, and not necessarily in that order, the Savas's look was incredulous. Especially in the middle of a war like this. This is a fantasy they can explore, enjoy, and walk away from. One that can include grievous injury and humiliation, with both gone in the morning. Montoya cocked his head. It's not for me, but to each their own in how they relax, and contribute to the war effort. He pointed the tranship still in his companion's hand. Valsalvas nodded. True. But back to Yamasa. Do you think you guys can rescue her? She is very hard to say no to. Montoya looked at him pleadingly, eyes wide. Thoreau snorted. That look hasn't worked on me since I was in my first hundreds, he sniffed. Let me ask you this. What do you think of her? Hmm. The Terran rocked his head side to side. Very nice girl. Very pretty. Good actress, though Donovan does not agree. The two shared a quick chuckle. But very annoying when she wants to get her way. Gets into everything. She had some of our sensor gear half apart before we found out where she'd taken herself to at one point. Said she saw something shiny. But good girl. Just not too bright. Valsavis gave him a half grin. No comment about her escapades in the bedchambers? Those are part of the package, I'm told. Montoya drew himself up with a sniff. Evolvina never tells. They stood there for a time, enjoying the shared secret knowledge. Then Valsavis took a breath. I wouldn't be too sure about that. The Terran's eyebrows drew together. Then she is no good girl? No, that she's not too bright, Valsavis responded. I did some research on her. She does not come from money. While her clan does well, her actual family managed to get themselves into bad standing a couple of thousand years ago. Those bridges have not mended. They are thought of as the stupid family of the clan. Supposedly every clan has one of those. Anyway, there are few high-level jobs open to them, no matter how smart they might be. You think we Devane are hard on other races, he shuddered. One of the few avenues open is acting in the streams. Not truly a high-level job, but it pays well. Actors aren't expected to be smart. Just learn lines and be able to give the right emotions. She not only could do that, but also send the emotions out on the aether. Not to car level, but fairly respectable. Montoya frowned. If they are so looked down on, how did she gain one of the highest noble ranks the civilians can get? Valsalvas raised his finger. The highest. That question, still unanswered, was my first clue. The second clue. He paused and looked at the Terran. I'm going to ask you to let them stay on your crew and to pass them on to whatever crew that takes over for you next. Montoya cocked his head. The second clue that she isn't as dumb as she acts, he prompted. When we came out into the Lamiska system, we were talking about what likely created it. My commander explained to her how we were certain that an ancient race put them in place. Something you know of, correct? The Terran nodded. See, we've all had the full briefing on that system. We were talking about how much energy would be needed to shift bodies that size, and Yamasa just blurted out one of the most insane things I've ever heard from anyone, or for that matter, any of the scientists on this station has ever heard. What if the stars themselves were ships? She asked. Impossible in this universe, of course. But I thought scans run with that thought in mind might find something that more reasoned approaches missed to help unlock the mystery. All hands on the elephant, right? At Montoya's chuckle, he nodded and continued. So, when they asked permission to do so, to run the scans, I allowed them to run the scans as we made our pass. I assumed they had stopped running them when you jumped us. That was an incorrect assumption. When I looked over what they ran, I found out they had significantly reconfigured the search algorithms and search parameters, something that people with only advanced studies and equipment should be able to do. And they ran those scans the entire run until you took Trisola with you. Even more importantly, I think you must have signed on to that cruise with the sole intention of getting onto the bridge to do that. How else was she going to get her hands on equipment at that level? No sane person would let someone of her family do so. Montoya thought long and hard. Impressive, but did they catch any readings that'll help solve the mystery of that system? Phil Savis held up a memchip. That was my third clue. Ranger Montoya, there is something in those stars.